This episode of Forging Friendships is sponsored in part by Iron Mountain Metalcraft, located in the beautiful Pigeon Forge, Tennessee area. Go forge a memory with Forged in Fire fan favorite Robbie Bowman. Woo! The show is also sponsored in part by African Custom Knives, Black Dragon Forge, Paragon Kilns, and with the support of viewers like you through our GoFundMe campaign, link in description.
One of the things that Cowboys kind of brought into this area, and other smiths are picking it up, and then there was smiths before him that were doing it, was what he's doing with forging memories. To give you that experience firsthand, to be able to understand what it's like to move metal, and what a stress reliever sometimes it is to sit there and whack on a hot piece of steel. But again, I go back to that first statement I made. When you see everything out here that's amazing to you, and you're just in awe, and God gives you that moment where you can just create something for yourself, where you just get a tiny, tiny taste of what it must have been like. That's amazing to me. And that He gives us the ability to create also. And you can make incredibly amazing things. You can make tools that you may need to work. You can make your own tongs. It's limitless. And it's just such an awesome opportunity to be able to do those things. But then the friendships you make along the way are staggering. I just can't believe all the different walks from different people's life experiences. Philip and I were talking this morning, his life experiences, my life experiences. I've talked to Cowboy, who's highly educated, in his background. If you don't know it, you wouldn't know it because he doesn't flaunt it. But if you read his bio, it's amazing what he's done in his life. And just the great people that you're going to meet. It's just, that's the best part of this. And that's what's so important about what Philip's doing with this program, is because you wouldn't have any idea of the relationships you can develop with people and their stories that really make that connection. It's kind of like I told him, sometimes it's almost like a light. When you start talking to somebody, their face literally lights up when they're talking about their experiences and the things that they share. And it can be the simplest question, or it can be the most difficult question. But what's awesome about the whole thing is it's literally just the ride. It's just walking that path with somebody for a few moments or an hour, and getting inside their head for a minute and learning about them, and walking away with something that's useful. Next week on Forging Friendships. I'm Don Halter. I'm 51 years old. I grew up a poor child in Cuba under the dictatorship. I've been doing bladesmithing. This is my 30th year. Broken home, massive addiction to heroin. Only through bladesmithing was I.
My shirt, Daddy.
Okay. Oh, he'll like that. Oh my God, it feels so much better in here. We'll just go ahead and claim it. Hello, what can I get you? How about... These are really terrible, so I'm going to save you the trouble of trying to eat those. No, they were trying the sauce today, so it's pretty good.
So tell me
I have a hula hoop bat.
a little quick, why this place, the connection to this place. This is your favorite place. I mean, it's the only place, but you know what I mean? Why are we here?
We had a really great cafe, and we used to, as a family, would come over here and eat at Downtown Cafe all the time. It moved to a smaller building, and then probably in the last year or so it closed. And because of that, we found out about the meat market. And I didn't realize at the time, I thought I'm thinking meat market, so I'm thinking you just go there, get meat, cook it yourself, cook it, Yeah. And then I found out they started actually having meals inside, and it took off. I mean, Trey just had a few tables, not many more than he has right now, pre-COVID. And next thing you knew, it's like more people and more people. Saturdays, the line was out the door. And it's like, what is going on? And we developed a friendship when I was still at the constable's office. So that was a treat for us because Thorndale, actually just a small sliver of Thorndale is actually in Williamson County.
Okay.
So our precinct came right over to Thorndale. And so we would kind of cheat and say,
That is good. That is good.
we would cheat and say, we're going to make sure we cover our precinct to go over to Thorndale and make sure we're covering all four corners, So we'd sneak over here and we eat because the food is just wonderful.
Yeah.
And
As I've just found out.
yeah, Trey is very pro everything, but especially law enforcement. He loves law enforcement. And he and I will do gags on each other all the time with different things. And matter of fact, he wrote me a ticket with that helmet on one day when I was out here with Johnny Cash. So, and what he was putting a rogue sticker on the truck. So, but he's Master Mason, I think. I don't want to lie, but I believe he's Master Mason. With his family he came up through the ranks with his family. That's his grandfather's, I believe. And like I said, he was working at ERCOT making good money. He's a very intelligent guy. But the guy you meet is just the most humble, friendly, just amazing person. And everybody has a great Trey story or conversation started with Trey. And so as an entrepreneur, I mean, he's the epitome of what's really incredible as far as a business owner goes. So it's not hard. I mean, you just really like the guy. And because he is my business now, I really go over and above now because I'm always making sure everything's okay here when he's gone. Something doesn't look right,
Yeah.
I can call him on a moment's notice and check on him, make sure everything's all right. Like I said, he came out and flew the drone for that tanker spill we had. And then you factor in this stuff in front of us, and the food is just really, really good. And I'll have him explain that cold smoke barbecue process that he does. I don't know that makes all the difference in the world, but people will come here and they go, your barbecue tastes different. So in a good way. But it's all of that. It's the personality, the people, the food. And he does. Pre-COVID, this place was bombed. He was working 7 days a week. And so when COVID happened, then he said, well, I'm going to start giving my employees off on Sundays. So now he's closed on Sundays, which is like unheard of. And but we had a conversation. I'd have to ask him the specific month. But he was standing at the counter one day and I was paying out. And we were talking. We talk all the time. And I said, brother, I said, you look bad. And he goes, I know, I need to start getting out of here a little bit. And I said, no, I mean, Trey, I'm telling you, I've worked a regular job and I've run a business. And I said, so I know what it's like to burn the candle at both ends and the middle at the same time. I said, you need to take a break, and I'm telling you, you need to take a break right now. He's like, well, I've been trying to figure out how I can get out of here and do some different stuff, and maybe there's something I could go do for me, And I said, well, get on it. Well, he started road tripping, his blog. I didn't know it at the time. But he was so excited about road tripping. He's telling me what he's doing later on, all this stuff. And he's sharing all these experiences, places he's going to. And he says, he writes this article. He says, oh, I mentioned you in this month's road tripping. I went, what? The conversation we had. He said, I don't know if it's, he was very gracious to me. He goes, I don't know if it's all his years in law enforcement and being able to read people on the side of the road, or just because he knows me well enough. He said, but he told me I needed to go do something different, and he said, I finally did. And this is it. And so that's how road tripping got spun off. And he's just my friend. I just, you're just being honest with me. Hey man, you need to take a break. And so now we talk a lot, and there's things that we talk about that I don't know if he talks with other people about, but it's one of those friendships where we can say anything to each other. I'll sit there sometimes and I'll say, we need to do something different. And he's kind of looking at me going, well, I want to look at doing it. And so I'll actually throw ideas at him just for different food and stuff. And because, like he said, people can't eat barbecue every day.
Right.
When you have somebody like Norma back there who is just a magician, especially with Mexican food and some of the other things that she does, she makes a squash casserole. You would probably look at it and go, you'll arm wrestle for that shit. I ain't kidding, it's good. But that's one of the people that I contribute to, or attribute to me being able to get through my process a year ago when I was doing the IV chemo. Was nothing tasted good. And she goes, what do you want? And I said, she goes, okay, I'm making it. She'd go and she whipped something up, handed it to me, and I was like, I don't know if I want that. And I started eating it. I was like, that's what I want. It's just crazy. So, I mean, it's that mother instinct, I think.
Yeah.
But she's also my translator.
Oh, yeah?
When I need somebody.
You call her up at 3 a.m. I don't know what's going on.
Well, she'll come.
That's cool.
Yeah, she'll come. She helped me with a case a while back, and she translated for me. And, well, we'll see if the court will accept you as a translator. I've never heard of the thing. Okay. And then the people will come in there. You get all the community people, then you get people from other areas. They didn't know Thorndale was even in existence.
Right.
It's kind of like the same thing like Black's and some of the other barbecue places out there that people go and seek them out. He did make Texas Monthly.
Really?
And what was funny was the reporter that came out. He came out, did his interview and everything. He goes, okay. He said, can you show me something? So he took him out in the back. He's showing the pits. He's talking about methodology and how he came up with how he does the amount of meat that he does every day. And he's talking about all this stuff. And he goes, oh, by the way, he said the interview was done about an hour and a half ago. I just love listening to you.
How is it?
It's terrible.
Very good.
That's
bad.
hey.
You turn the mic down.
Seriously, that's very good. I like
glad.
that. It's got good flavor. Hey, you're making other people happy too.
That's true. They're also channel, volume, power.
The big one.
The power button?
Yeah. Just tap it once. Without moving the whole camera. See it there?
Oh.
It changes its thing.
Here comes our boy.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the second segment that I'm trying to do is all about you, like I said, you minus everything else that we've already gone through. Forget forging. Forget law enforcement. Who's Mark? Where were you born? Growing up, family life, all those kind of things, defining moments in your life that you want to share. Hold back on whatever you want to know. And if you get in a rhythm and you're thinking later, I shouldn't have said that, just tell me and I'll cut it out.
Not when I robbed the bank and they let me go. That one's
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if they let you go, they knew about it, so that's on them. It's when you rob the bank and nobody caught you. That's
Yeah, there's that one.
yeah.
What was the guy that parachuted out of the plane again? Dan. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Boy, that
What
came
was
up
his
again on TV.
Not too long ago.
I don't remember.
Dan something, wasn't it?
I don't know.
That
on the
was-
tip of my tongue.
I know.
Anyway, childhood, growing up, that kind of stuff. Go there. I mean, if you want, towards the end, tie in faith, because obviously that's a big deal.
So I was born a black sharecropper's son in Endicott, New York. No, that was Steve Martin. Born and raised in, actually Binghamton I found out, raised in Endicott. Endicott was the birthplace of IBM. A lot of people don't realize that. Thomas Watson basically bought the time machine company, and it was a lot of the punch card,
Yep.
all that stuff. And so,
Fortran stuff? Is that what it was, Fortran?
so they started off as a timekeeping company for, punching your time card, and started morphing into different types of business machines and outlets. And then, of course, when the computer industry came along, that's what they became famous for. Was developing the computer corporation part of it. My dad started there as a young man, and he wasn't a machinist, but he would like an assembler, manufacturing. And when he retired, he was the manager of one of the larger printer lines that they had back in the day. And everybody worked for IBM when I was a kid. It was over 15,000 employees, I think, at the time in Endicott. And one of my favorite stories my dad told me was when my grandfather was alive, the big corporation that was there at the time that everybody worked for was Endicott Johnson Shoes. And Endicott Johnson, or EJ's, was one of these companies that was just all about their employees. And there's some funny stories that got told to me related through the years. There was one time back, all the immigrants coming in, a lot of Italian immigrants coming into the area. So we had some of the best food. Oh my God, some of the best food. And I walk around to an Italian restaurant now and I go, that's crap. The stuff that we had on the north side was amazing. But they were all into gardens back then because they were going through the Depression and trying to make a living, and so Endicott Johnson had a load of wheelbarrows come in because they were a tannery, so they would throw all this stuff in the wheelbarrows, carry it around through the plant and stuff. And so all the people who were doing their gardens saw the wheelbarrows and they started disappearing. Well, the Johnson family found out that a lot of them were kind of slipping them off to their house to help with their garden and stuff. So the great family that they ordered a bunch more of them and they just left them out there for the employees to take home. A lot of the homes built on the north side of Endicott, literally on the hillside, the lumber came from their lumber yard. They would do purchase programs for their employees. It was just an amazing time back then. So IBM comes in, and EJ's is kind of on their way out. They're seeing the handwriting in the wall imports and all the stuff coming in. Shoe industry was changing. And my grandfather sat there with my dad one day, and he said, "You see all these tanneries, all these Endicott Johnson buildings?" And he goes, "Yeah." He said, "Someday they'll all be IBM." He goes, "No way." He said, "I don't see that happening." He said, "Trust me, by the time you're my age," he said, "all these will be IBM." Right.
Right.
Yeah. Now, by the time I'm his age, they're gone. IBM is all but abandoned Endicott. But yeah, it seemed like everybody's family worked for IBM. It was kind of odd if you didn't. And so growing up, it was really competitive school districts, really good school districts, very well funded. We had huge graduating classes because we were the tail end of the boomers, and so my graduating class was over 200 people. When I look at my kids' classes, it's like 20, 60. It's like our marching band that we had was 250
Yep.
piece marching band.
Yep.
I look at my kids' marching band, 60, you know. So what we used to tell everybody was, or what I used to tell everybody was, we looked like an invasion coming in from the end zone because it was just row after row after row after row. We had 4 rows of just trumpets. We had 4 rows of clarinets. I mean, it was just like the super goofy monster band. And then we had to throw in the flag corps, the tigerettes, which were the dancers.
Like where
just,
we went.
Yeah, it's just
My senior year, I think we had about 260 of just the band. And then I don't even know, another 100 at least with the dance team.
But now you look and the interest just isn't there, I guess, now, but it's sad. Our big deal was in 77, we went to Tournament of Roses Parade. That was surreal. That fall, which would have been 76, my freshman, junior year? Freshman. Yeah, freshman year. We went to Maryland and we competed in a multi-band competition at Maryland Stadium for the Terrapin. Terrapin band played halftime, but we competed there at Maryland University. And they had this trophy that was this tall. It had 4 spires around it with a big cup on top, and then all these plates and future plate locations. You had to win that 3 years in a row to keep it.
Oh, wow.
And so we went in that one year, and we had stole this thing called the Swagger, and I forget which college we got it from. But basically the drum corps would do this almost jungle beat, and then the band would take their instruments in their hands and do this and scream. So we do the and it was crazy. It looked like insanity coming at you. Well, so it was Maryland. We stole it from Maryland. That's right. We stole it from Maryland at that competition. It was like, what is that? So, and with the white gloves and the black sleeves and all that, I mean, it was a show. And so we stole the Swagger. So we took it, and 5.5 miles is the Tournament of Roses Parade. That's death for a band that big. That's literally death. So as we're coming in, and that doesn't factor in all the float breakdowns, all the drama that goes on, hold up, wait, you're high stepping, because we were high steppers, so you're high step the first mile, then we dropped to a low walk. We were spent by the time we got to the end. So as we're coming into this massive parking lot, you see all these band members walking around over laser. My director was a Nazi about being perfect. You didn't let your shit show for a minute. I mean, he was just...
I know a little something about that.
He was a great guy. I love Joe to death. But so here's everybody hanging out. They're sprawled on the ground. They're doing the death throw, all that stuff. And I hear the whistle command for the Swagger. I can't tell you what I said.
Yeah.
But it was something related to, when I get a hold of that, and bleep, bleep, bleep. And so they whistle it up and we do the Swagger. Usually you just scream. This was a death groan. Ah! We were just screaming. And it does this, and that's what Joe loved to do to people. You see people that are half dead on the ground, they look up like the Walking Dead. Who are you? And we're coming in, and we look like this ferocious beast coming in. And of course, our size, because not too many bands at the Term Roses are that big. And we got, where are you guys from? What was that you did? How did you do that? We were exhausted. I couldn't do that. And I was like, I don't know how the hell we did it either. I was not a Big Mac person, but after that day, I ate 2 Big Macs. I had mentioned to you earlier, I was one of 11 children. I was actually adopted. My parents that I knew were foster parents. And so what happened was, at 3 days old, I was taken from, I ended up being in the state hospital, and given to my foster parents. And then they decided at some point they wanted to adopt me. My biological dad was trying to keep the family together, so we had all the older kids were in and out of the state home there in Binghamton, and so basically anytime my mom went in for her mental health breakdowns or whatever, he would have to put them in the state home for a while. So most of the older kids were either in and out of the state home, or the 2 or 3 oldest ones, my 2 brothers and my sister, would sometimes continue to stay with my dad because they were older. And basically, make a long story short, the 4 youngest kids all ended up getting adopted out. So that would be my brother Bill. Oh my goodness gracious. That should be illegal. So my brother Bill, my sister April, myself, and my youngest brother. So I was I was 10 of 11. And Billy and April went with the Puckies. I went with the Birchards. And then my youngest brother went to a family up in Syracuse, New York. And so basically the younger kids really didn't know the older kids at all at that point. I would get told by my mom would get told by the state workers that they knew that I came from a large family, that either brother or brothers were pastors or ministers or some form of religion, but we didn't know too much. Some of the older kids ended up getting a lot more information through the grapevine. My brother Bill knew about my oldest brother Ed, that he was a pastor, went to the seminary there in Binghamton, New York. And he went to SUNY Binghamton, which was the state university there in Binghamton, and was also a music person. He played saxophone. Billy's incredibly talented. Saxophone, piano, any keyboards. I forget what else he could play. But he was in the jazz band there at SUNY Binghamton. And he was going to go for a music degree, and then all of a sudden he got the call, and he just felt like he was supposed to go into the seminary. And so he goes to, and God forgive me guys, I forget the name of the program up there, but he went to the seminary there that was available in Binghamton, New York. And he's sitting in this waiting room to talk to somebody, I believe is how the story goes, and he put his hand down in the side pocket of this chair that he was sitting in. He pulled out an annual, so he's looking through the yearbook, and he had been told the name Rouse at some point. And so he's flipping through the book, and he looks and he sees this picture of Ed Rouse, and he goes, I think that's my brother. So at some point later on, Billy ended up meeting Ed when he got his first call in upstate, one of his first calls up in upstate New York, and actually went to his church and met him. So Billy had a lot more intel early on than I did. And then Keith, my youngest brother, I think my sister found him before she found me. I was the last outpost or outlaw, whichever it wanted to be, that they hadn't found out of all the brothers and sisters. And I'm not doing a very good job of telling this story, but at any point, in 1994, I get a phone call from my mom, and she said, I need to talk to you about something. And they were very honest with me about everything that happened for what they could tell me about it. It was, my mom
Didn't
told
have all
me,
the information.
yeah, I just didn't have all the things to connect the dots. I understood I was adopted. At 7, I had to go before a state judge and agreed to adopt my parents, because he said, are you going to take care of your parents and these are raise your parents? And all of a sudden I was like, yes, sir. So I can still remember that really clearly. And she said, your sister called. And I said, oh, how's Diane, my sister? And she goes, no, well, I don't follow you. And she goes, your other sister. And I said, what other sister? My sister Annette, so she's talking about. And my sister Annette had started going through the Union Endicott yearbooks and looking for another Rouse kid, and found my picture, and she goes, that looks like a Rouse. And so she reached out and called my mom. Well, she called Mark Birchard, because that was the name in the yearbook. That was my name. But I also had a cousin, Mark Birchard. So they get my cousin Mark's wife on the phone, and she said, I think I know, I need to talk to Mark. And she said, well, he's not home. And she goes, I don't know how to say this, I'm just going to say it. She goes, I think your husband may be my brother. And she goes, come again? And she says, well, your husband adopted? And she said, no, but his cousin was. And she said, what? And she said, his name is Mark Birchard also. So that's how she got in contact with my mom. And then my mom said, what do you want to do? And I said, what should I do? And she goes, honey, it's up to you, whatever you decide to do. And I said, well, I'd kind of like to know. And she goes, well, here's your phone number. And so that's how it all started. So in 1994, one of our friends was a writer for the Taylor Press at the time, did a big story on it. And I got to meet my brothers and sisters through the telephone and letters and video. And of course, you got to remember, in 1994, there wasn't a whole lot of internet and all that other stuff then. But the funny part about all this stuff is I got to meet a few of them. I met my brother Ed. No, I met Ray first. I think it was Ray. Ray's the second oldest. I met him. He was in Florida. He's a huge church in Florida, pastor down there. And he flew in, I think, to my parents' house in Alabama where they retired to. And I met Ray there. That was like 90, 95, 96. It was early. And then I met my sister Annette at my parents also. And then I think that's all the only kids I'd met at that point. I talked to Bill on the phone. And I hadn't physically made contact with the rest of them at that point. So in 2018, I decided I need to go home. I knew we were getting older. I had bought a nice camera I told you about, and I was going to go document my family. And so a lot of stuff was going on. If you look at my Facebook posts back then, there was a lot of where I was feeling that I was getting the push to go. And so I drove from here to Mountain Home, Arkansas. That's where Ed lives. So I got to meet all my oldest brother's family. And then we went on into Binghamton, New York from there. Monty went with me that first year. And I got to meet everybody except my sister, April. And I want to say there's somebody else. At least April for sure I hadn't met at that point, physically laid eyes on her. So I got to see my other brothers and sisters, that was really cool, because we had contact through internet, email, Facebook, but to actually sit down and talk with them and interview them was really fun. I got to find out a lot of cool stories and what it was like for them, either if they were the ones that stayed with my dad at the time with the transition, or the kids that were in and out of the home, and what they experienced through their experiences doing that. And then the next year, I went back and I got to meet my sister April, which I'm really glad I got to meet April, because Alan and April both passed after that trip. So I lost the middler siblings, I'll call them. And April was, we had such a great visit. I mean, I got to Daisy and I got to sit there and talk to her for probably at least 2, maybe 3 hours, and it really made a great connection with my sister. And it was so awesome to actually get to talk to her and hug her, and it was amazing. And I always felt like when we get to the other side, I didn't want to not know them before I got there. And so getting to complete that list, the only one that I never got a chance to meet was my oldest brother David, and that's because David fell and off a second story landing on a residence there in Johnson City, and landed on a concrete handrail for a staircase, and it killed him instantly, basically. And I think it was my siblings are going to beat me up, I think it was his 7th birthday. He was about 7 years old. And the funny thing about that was the second trip I went home, I was with Annette, the sister that found me. And that's when we went to the Binghamton State Hospital. Yep. And then I found out I was born there. And I said, okay. And then we got chased off by security because there was a lot of stuff going on. And they didn't want anybody up there filming the state hospital at that point. We still don't know what's really going on with that. But the state was involved with something going on. It wasn't occupied, so it wasn't like there was any residents that were in-house to be videotaped, but they were making big drama. They tried to confiscate my video. And I was like, you can't confiscate my camera, my video. No, I've got all these interviews and stuff. So what I did was I actually showed them what I had recorded and erased it. Right. And I got away with that one. But we had left there, and then she took me over nearby where and basically what it was residences in that part of the city that were quote unquote the home for where the kids would stay. So they'd stay with other families, basically. Right. And so she was showing me the different houses and everything where the kids stayed. And I can't remember there was a funny encounter there that we had. Her and I felt like we were being chased. It was kind of crazy. And then the next stop I made was I wanted to see where David had passed away. And so the neighborhood area was familiar to me because it was close by to one of the hospitals that we used to use all the time. And I came in this one street, and she said, that's the house, but it's all closed in now. It had open porches back in the day. That's how David fell off. And so I'm kind of taking pictures, and I feel like somebody is standing behind me with their hand on my shoulder, pulling me. And I'm going, what? And I'm like, it's driving me nuts. It's like, I said, hold on a minute. So I walk back to the direction I feel like I'm being pulled to, and the street kind of did a Y to where David was. And this one went to the hospital, and this one went to the house that they were at. And I go to the intersection, and I'm looking, and I had been in this intersection since I was probably about 10. And I look over, and I said, holy crap. There is the house that my aunt and uncle rented that I grew up in, and it's literally like 4 houses away from this house. But I mean, that sensation of like, go look over here. It was like, what? It's literally like, you're tugging on my arm saying, come with me, come with me. Let's go. And so I go and I look, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, it's because I couldn't have found that street, not that many years later, on my own. And it was like, how did I even know that was there? But it was a lot of weird stuff like that happened when we were back at that time. But so I have, that is the oldest. The youngest is my brother Keith. 4 brothers are pastors. Billy is still active with his church. He has 2 churches right now. Jim's retired. Ed's retired. Ray just stepped back at his church, and his family is taking over. His son is taking over his church, I believe. So Ray's kind of stepped back from his role at his church in Florida. And then just an amazing eclectic family. My brother Alan said it best. He said 11 kids and nobody's in jail. So I mean, it's just
somebody did something right.
Yeah, it's just. But the family history going back. I mean, I could spend a lot of time talking about my grandfather and my uncles, but just a really mentally rich family as far as the wonderful things that they would do, and their faith was always up front. I mean, just my Uncle Ezra is probably one of my rock stars. I love Uncle Ezra. He's still with us, and he would tell me stories about my grandfather that just blew me away. I mean, just his faith was ridiculous.
And that's obviously something we talked about. We'll go into that. That's very important to you, faith. Where I find it peculiar, honestly, that of all those siblings, how many of them are in, not only in a church, but in a leadership, structural, organizational point of view of putting them together. You know, you got a lot of people that are faithful in the church that just go, they do the thing. But a different type of person to start something organizationally, and then with your own personal faith, where did that come from? One, do you know? And then two, you know, how is and why is faith such an important thing?
It was funny. My grandfather, Avery, my mom's dad, always wanted to find the grandchildren. It always annoyed him and frustrated him that we weren't together. If I told you some of the stories about him, one was he was always looking out for somebody else. I told you about Endicott Johnson and the shoe company then that he worked for. He would come up with ideas that he was given to be able to help other employees. That story about the lumber being provided for the houses, that was one of the things where he went to the Johnson family and said, look, he said, you have a mill. He said, you have employees that need housing. He said, why don't you let the employees work the mill and create the lumber to make their houses to live in. Another one was where I had worked my first job with IBM in the cafeteria. That was called the Glendale Lab. That property was property that my grandfather, I found out later, farmed on behalf of Endicott Johnson. He would raise all the vegetables that were sold in their restaurants. And so it was like, that's weird to be working on the same property that my grandfather used to farm. There was so many missed connections, it was ridiculous. I told you about Bill, my brother Bill, going to SUNY Binghamton. I went to SUNY Binghamton the next year after he left and played in the same jazz band that he played in. We missed each other that close. But I really attribute my biological family's faith to how all those children were embedded at such a young age, the ones that knew the grandparents and the family members. It was so important for them that everybody had a good Christian upbringing. The uncles would take over for the kids to take them to church. I have some of my brother's favorite stories, are especially my Uncle Ezra was one. He would every Sunday would come pick up my brother and take him to church. It was such a unifying thing for the family. The faith was so strong on that side of the family. As far as my side of the family, my parents were members of a Christian church there in Endicott, and I went every Sunday as a kid. I mean, I just remember every Sunday getting in the car and we went to church. I remember going through the baptismal service and everything else. To not sound really arrogant, but our pastor at the time, I would sit there and I would listen to him, and he was a good pastor, and I would sit there and go, I could do a better job than that. It's like, how arrogant is that as a child to sit there and say, and he's a good pastor. It wasn't anything on him, but I thought, I didn't feel moved, it wasn't like...
My dad was a preacher. I am a preacher's son. I had the very same thoughts of, I could do better than that.
Yeah.
So that's not arrogance, that's just understanding someone's not effective as a communicator that's in the role of a communicator.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Arrogant. But they didn't do the job.
But yeah, I'm sitting there as a young boy, and I'm sitting there going, I could do a better job than that. And it's like, where's that coming from? It was so crazy to even think that, because he was a good man. It wasn't anything about that. It's just, But I've had other pastors since that, yeah, your butt's moving. You feel it. You want to go and be interactive, and you want to participate. One of the things I did later in life was I joined the Christian Motorcycle Association when I had my motorcycles, and that's how I met Lynn and Jeannie that met Cowboy.
Okay.
Lynn and Jeannie founded the Taylor chapter of CMA, and so we had several friends that were in CMA there, so we joined, and I later on became the president. I was president for 3 years of the Taylor chapter, and one of the amazing things that happened with that, being part of CMA, was we went to Arkansas, to the home where CMA is there in Arkansas, and the first summer up there, they had a summer program, then they had a fall program. The changing of the colors was a big rally they had, but the summer program was a good one, and I wanted to take my kids to it so they could see what that was about. And so I'm sitting there, and they have this really amazing property up there. It's beautiful, and they had the side doors open. It's kind of like this huge meeting hall, but it's like new construction, massive barn looking thing. We've got roll up doors and all this stuff. And I'm going to forget Jerry's last name. He's got a ministry down in Houston. Anyway, Jerry would come and do the praise and worship for CMA every year up there. And good musician, really just grounded guy. I mean, you feel his spirit. I mean, he's just amazing guy. And so we're sitting there, and Jerry's playing and getting us all fired up, and everything. And he goes, when he's done, he goes to the back and he gets a cold bottle of water. And as he's walking back down the side, we're one of just a few people sitting on the very outer edge. And he walked by, and I don't know why he did it, but as he walked by, he put his hand on my back and then just kept on walking. And I'm sitting there going, that was weird. And my wife looked at me, and I said, sorry, and I didn't tell her what was going on. All the rest of the day, I could feel Jerry's hand on my back the whole rest of the day. It was bizarre. And so later on, I got to be president. I got to go to the president's ceremony. That was a special one in January every year to get sworn in. And Jerry was there. And I walked up to Jerry the next year, and I've got this look on my face, and he goes, what is it? And I said, Jerry, there's something I have to tell you. And he said, what? And I said, and I related the story to him, and he looked at me, and he goes, okay. And I said, I felt your hand on my back all day, and I lost, remember we talked about lost my shit? I lost it, and I just lost it. And he grabbed me and hugged me, and he said, it's okay. And I said, I've never had anything like that happen to me before. And he said, but it was a good thing. It's okay. And he said, you're here now, and everybody's great. And he said, man, I love you. And I did. I've never in my life ever felt anything like that. And he was so gracious. And because I lost it. And he just hugged me. He said, it's okay, man. Let it out. It's okay. And I never forgot that. And he's always been a special person to me that way. But my family's faith, if I showed you Messenger with all this stuff going on, these kids are amazing. And I tell them every day that I get a chance to tell them, I said, you guys are amazing to me, because had I never gone through the rest of my life and not met you, I just would have been totally sad, because their faith is so strong, and they love each other, but they're kids. I mean, sometimes they get mad at each other, sometimes they but they're awesome people, and I wouldn't trade one of them. And just to know that I've got that. And then the other side of the family, I've got my Birchard family. I have a sister and a brother, and they have just loved me since day one. I mean, I've never not felt like their brother. I've never not felt welcome. I mean, they were awesome to me, but they were older. So Gary got married when I was 7. No, that was Diane. Gary was 5. I was 5 when Gary left. I was 7 when my sister left, and that killed me because my sister was like my other mom.
Yeah.
She was, we went everywhere. She took me everywhere. I did everything with her. She was my rock star. She was a blast. I loved my sister. And when she left, it was like, and then I became an only child. Because she went to California. Gary was still within reasonable distance, but I mean, he got so busy with his family and work and everything. We just always kind of had that distance. Now that we're older, it's better. But
I got something special, that's why.
what? Are you tattling or what?
White is good.
That was very good. Delicious strawberry banana pound cake.
Oh, strawberry banana pound cake. Well, I had a hot fudge sundae or an ice cream sandwich. I'm good. That sounds good though. If y'all want some. But yeah, I know I didn't do a good job of explaining that, but that's basically where that comes from.
There's plenty there that I can work with.
That's 26 minutes.
Okay. I'm trying. How do I frame this question?
Just let it out. You don't want to offend me.
I'm not. I know I'm not going to fit. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to think multiple points here. One, how to end the episode kind of thing.
Gotcha.
With that ending point, and make a point. If you, knowing everything you know, your life's experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, the incredible, telling anybody that's going to be watching, or as if your family were sitting across the table, if it's just you and me, however you want to frame it, what's the one thing? What is that one thing that this is where I hesitate to say it, because it applies to everybody if your mind is in the right spot. Mm-hmm. We could get in a car accident on the way to the hotel, we're done. Anything can happen to anybody, God only knows the time. But as if right now was the last time, and this is where it's difficult in the situation that you're in, because you don't know.
Yeah.
What?
Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
And then Norma brings this.
What is that?
See, you're on camera.
What is that one thing?
And now you know why it adds 10 pounds, because Norma brings something.
that you would tell anybody, I don't care who it is, family, anybody, that whether it's what's life about, the whole point, what it is that's important to you, if you were talking to yourself as a child, that one little piece of advice, what is that one thing that Mark wants to just tell the world?
That was a video I did the other day. For me, to tell somebody else, like I would tell my kids, or my family, or you. It's important that people know how you feel about them. And the latest thing, there's two things that have changed here recently for me, and I don't know where this is coming from. If I see friends coming up and it's a guy, what's going on, handsome? It's like, where did that come from? People don't get told enough that you appreciate them when you see them. And I've started telling people, and it's hard for guys to do this sometimes, but for me it just blurts out, and it's like I don't know how to do it. I'll just tell people, sorry, I love you, buddy.
Yeah.
You know, I care about you. And the thing about that is, I guess, it's not just saying that, but it's important for people to know that you really do care, you know. Whether you're giving them your time, whether you're giving them advice, whether you're just sitting there and listening, whether you're making something for them, or just giving your buddy a ride to go get his truck to tow his other truck home. Right, Jason? So, seriously, I did a video the other day for me just to put something out. And what I told everybody was about the masks and stuff that we wear and protecting ourselves and all that stuff. And I said, don't get lost in the moment of the drama that you're dealing with, the problems you're dealing with. You know, it's gonna pass. You'll get past it. It's better to focus on the things that make you happy. Whether it's hearing your daughter giggle, to making something, to sitting down with your family and having a dinner together where there's no outside drama, to seeing your friend that you haven't seen in a while. And that's one thing that's been funny for me lately was he's always listening. And I'll sit there and think about somebody I haven't seen in a while. The next day, here they come. It's like, how does that work? You know? And I guess the biggest thing is, don't give up on the fact that the smallest thing to you is the biggest thing for him, because he's always wanting to impress you. And sometimes you just have to be patient. It shows up, whether it's finding money for somebody that lost it, to thinking about a friend you haven't seen in a while and then they come walking in the door, to John Edward used to have sayings, communicate, appreciate, and validate. So you communicate to somebody, I love you, you validate them by either doing something or spending time with them. It's important for people just to be appreciated, you know, sometimes. To say there's one thing, I go back to Curly. What's the one thing? It's different for everybody. So you have to find out what that one thing is for you that helps somebody. In your case, doing this interactive, informative video type program. It could be you carried somebody's groceries to their car. It could be, you know, just any little thing. But
the smallest act of kindness at the right time.
Yes.
Is life changing.
And we're witnessing that too.
Yeah, that is, as I say that, a very nice lady just brings us all a little
Yeah,
bit of dessert.
You have to see what's being shoved under our noses.
We've been fed the entire time.
Yeah. But no, and for me, spending this day with you guys, I mean, it's you've got we talked about it this morning, you've got a great family, you know, and sharing them with other people is amazing too. So, is it good? She's speechless. I guess it is pretty good.
That's not a normal thing on our menu, so she is speechless. She's never fired that taste bud before. Yeah, strawberries are regular, but all the sugar and syrup and whipped cream, not so much.
Wow. What else is in here? Bananas? What is that?
Shortcake.
Oh my God.
Strawberry shortcake? Yeah, strawberry shortcake.
Okay, this is crack.
There's bananas.
I got it all over myself.
That's good. Yummy.
That's always been my favorite dessert.
Strawberry shortcake.
Strawberry shortcake. And I have not had it. Since before you were born, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
I get some.
I've gone on a
Wow.
crazy strict food diet. I've got gut issues, and I'm also finding that a lot of the nutritional things jack with my brain chemistry and anxiety and not depression, but panic disorder and all that kind of stuff. And overloading on sugar or wheat, glutens and stuff like that. I just can't.
That doesn't do it. Doesn't fix it.
Do it. It's like jet fuel on a fire.
Daddy, that is gonna feed the.
I was gonna feed the bad guys in my tummy. Yep. She knows. She's so good. Oh, she's so good.
She's like, Dad, should you be eating that? Is that on your diet? I think she just wants to eat it, so she tells you that, so you give it to her instead.
Yeah, that works.
She's actually looking out for me. You can read it on her face. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but watching the development of another human and the personality that they're becoming. That's such a cool thing.
Pretty good stuff, huh? Maybe.
I think we're good there. I've got so much. That was a good.
Yeah, I was trying not to be.
A good note to end it on. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
I mean that.
I do too.
No. Thank you for coming till. Yeah.
You do.
You too. Oh, don't come here.
You're a good entertainment.
Daddy, now can you help me play in the house?
Yes, of course.
And
Too kind, man. Had more calories today than I had.
God, that was good.
Oh yeah.
Very good.
do you want some ice cream at my ice cream shop?
You got ice cream too? Good Lord.
Yeah.
We're going to blow up.
That's the other house right over there.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's kind of needs a new owner. I think my niece has kind of outgrown it. She wanted to sell artwork last time she was here.
Oh, really?
Lemonade and artwork.
Me?
I think along the right
No,
line.
his niece. That's his niece's out
Yeah.
front.
How old are you?
5.
Yeah, she's a little bit older. She's turned 6. She's
Almost the same.
Yeah.
I'll probably get along.
I'm gonna turn 6 on March the 3rd.
Oh, cool.
That's when I turn 5.
No, that's